It's been so long. How have you been?
Hello, I'm doing well.
Dave, why are you talking that way?
Please say 1 for a compliment or 2 for a question.
Yeah, this is weird. I think I'm going to go.
Talking with an automated phone tree can feel pretty ridiculous. That's why when you call Pacific Source Health Plans, you'll get a real person to answer all your important questions.
Pacific Source Health Plans? This is a real person. How can I help you?
Human service, not automated phone trees. Find a plan at PacificSourceMembersFirst.com.
Hello and welcome to Too Stupid to Live, a podcast that reviews romance novels $5 and under. I'm your host, Becky Feldman, and summer may be coming to a close, but that doesn't mean things can't heat up. That's right, we are closing out the summer with another Hot as Hell with TSTL episode. Hot as Hell with TSTL are special episodes where I interview your favorite and soon-to-be favorite authors about their latest releases, their careers, and I ask other questions that may or may not make any sense. Who knows? You just have to listen. And I am so excited about today's guest, Rebecca Anne Nguyen, not only because we have the same name, but also because she just came out with a book called The 23rd Hero, which honestly I'm still thinking about. The book was a wild ride. The 23rd Hero doesn't necessarily fall into the romance genre, but at the same time, it does. Okay, great. Now my book descriptions may or may not be making any sense either, but regardless, The 23rd Hero is like this speculative sci-fi fantasy, time-traveling, even historical novel, like, rolled into one. It's a fictional extravaganza, if you will. It's like all the fictions are in there, including romance, and it's incredibly sexy. And I think that's why my mind is blown, because it's like, oh, you could put romance and sexy into any genre. Like, why should we limit ourselves? And The 23rd Hero is definitely an example of that. So if you're interested in a romantic story that is wholly original, check out the show notes for links to the book. I had a great time chatting with Rebecca, and I know you'll have a great time listening. So turn up those ceiling fans to high, or whatever, because now it is time for Rebecca Anne Nguyen to get hot as hell with TSTL. Well, Rebecca, welcome to Too Stupid to Live. I sound like I'm talking to myself, but welcome to Too Stupid to Live.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Yes, tomorrow, as we record, it seems like tomorrow is your publishing day, which is very exciting.
Yes, finally, only 5 years in the making. I've been just waiting and biting my nails for like thousands of days.
Well, talk about these 5 years you've been working on. So you have The 23rd Hero coming out tomorrow. You've been working on it for 5 years, it seems like.
That's right. Yeah, I started in 2019, pre-pandemic, not even knowing what I was doing. I'd always been a nonfiction writer. I had absolutely no business writing fiction, but my life was so horrible at that time that I just needed an escape. So I tried drinking a lot. I tried binge watching Outlander, which helps some. But I just needed to create like a world that was an antidote to my world. So I started to write down like my favorite foods and my favorite city. And then it became like if I could have an ideal love story, what would that look like? And yeah, here we are 5 years later. It's a novel as of tomorrow.
Yeah, it's so exciting. I absolutely loved it.
You did?
Yes, I finished it yesterday, or I read the majority of it in one day yesterday, on my couch, and I was like, wow, that was a whirlwind. What a journey.
Yeah, that's the idea. I'm glad okay. Yeah, it's definitely epic. We're going from Vancouver to some mysterious location in Asia to France in the 16th century. Yeah, so it's definitely not like what are those family dramas called where you never leave the house? It's not one of those.
Yeah. You leave the house in this one. We're leaving the house. But what was so fascinating, I think what kind of made it for me kind of like a whirlwind, I guess, literally, is that you create two different worlds that none of them take place in the present. So you have the future and you have the past. And it seems like you had kind of double the pressure of world building. You had to create two different worlds for this.
Yes. And what was I even thinking? I wasn't thinking. Yeah. So near future, it feels kind of dystopian. That humanity is about to have to go live in underground bunkers because we can't breathe the air anymore. So, probably the way things are going now, like next week or maybe next year for us. But yeah, near
Yeah.
future.
Mhm.
Um, and then I wanted to go the opposite, before industry, before any kind of modern technology, when climate woes were many centuries ahead of us, and to have someone from that world who's never, she has memories of breathing air as a child, but it had been so long since she had been able to be outside with air in contact with her face. What would it be like for that person to go back and be able to see the stars at night and be able to, be outside and drink water from the river?
Yeah. I get it. Just feeling air on your face for the first time is like not something you think about, and then to like have that, it was amazing. Like, did it ever feel like you were writing two different books at times? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yes, yes. And I I am in love, very much in love with a character I hope we will talk about, whose his name is Bastion.
Oh, we
And
love
so
him. Yes.
yeah, any part of the book where he wasn't it was like at first almost impossible for me to write. So I kept looking for ways to bring him into the story somehow. And so we have him as, he's in Sloane is our heroine, and he's in her dreams in the very beginning. And then when she goes back in time to France, she's torn apart from Bastion, her love. We have sort of a doppelganger, a Bastion
Mhm.
doppelganger to sort of tempt her. But that's me just as the author not able to let go of Bastion. So I have to put him. So that's sort of the through line for me. But absolutely, it's different. It is different worlds. And I think, like that works for some people. It doesn't work for others. For me, I like stories where I can get a dose of everything I like in one go.
Mhm.
So I always like think about The Princess Bride, if you've read the book or
Yeah.
seen the movie, where
Mhm.
and it's even described that way in the film. It's like you have adventure, you have love, you have sword fighting, you have comedy. It's like all the things. So it's like a bit of a kitchen sink, but I like that.
Yeah, and I think this book does a great job because there were times where I got scared, I was laughing out loud, like it was just like very interesting talking to people each day. They're like, "Oh, what are you reading?" And I'm like, "Okay, well today it felt like Hunger Games. Well, actually it felt like Running with Scissors. No, well today it felt like Outlet." Do you know what I mean?
Yes, yes, it's that. And gosh, I hope it works. I mean, it's my first go. But it was definitely hard to make it all work together. And it's very different from first early drafts. Sloane ends up in the fifth dimension instead of
Whoa.
France. So
Mhm.
we went, yeah. So I had to sort of like walk it back. And then like I said, I had no idea what I was doing at first. And so after, 2, 3 years, I had invested more time than I'd ever invested in a creative project in my life. So I was like, I am making this work, God damn it. I was like, I refuse to give up. So there's a lot of like a little bit of jankiness, but I tried my best.
You hear that, everyone? She tried her best. Yeah.
I did.
Buy my
Please.
book. I tried my best. Well, actually, tell me about your writing career and your writing journey. You started out in nonfiction.
I did. Yeah. So my first book is a memoir that I co-wrote with my brother. And it's about his journey coming home after war. So he's a combat veteran. And when he came home from serving in Iraq, he walked across the country to try and heal from the trauma of going to war. So as you can probably see, it's a very different book than this high octane adventure romance time travel novel. Yeah, so but that was part of the appeal to me after coming from a very serious project that was very heavy, both because of the subject matter, but also because it's my family. So in
Right.
telling this very heart-wrenching story about my family, that was part of the reason that I wanted to work on something like The 23rd Hero, was just to have that freedom to escape. I
Mhm.
really think of it as a fantasy,
Oh,
not in
yeah.
the strict genre sense, but just like as an escapist. Wouldn't it be cool if yeah, and before that, lots of freelance writing and blogging and writing for magazines and newspapers, but yeah, always in the nonfiction world. So I haven't even written a short story. Success, I've tried. It hasn't worked out well.
But you're a playwright as well.
I am. Yeah, yeah, that's my background. So I went to school for theater. I
Mhm.
think you're in Los Angeles.
I am, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I was out in LA for a while and doing some producing and some screenwriting and some acting. And so my sense of anything when I'm writing is a lot of dialogue. There's always more than half of the novel is dialogue.
Mhm.
And that's just what I hear in my head. And when I imagine a scene, it's always like people talking to each other or people talking to themselves, but talking.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I had to learn when as I was learning this form, this art form was what's happening when people aren't talking, what's beneath the surface, and what's going on in someone's mind. And when you're writing a screenplay or writing a play, you can think about that, but it's not on the page.
Right.
Right. It's sort of like we're connecting the dots from the dialogue that we see and from the stage directions we have or the camera angles or whatever. But in a novel, it's kind of cool because you can go there. You can
Yeah.
get inside a character's head.
Talk to me about that transition because that's always very fascinating to me. Like, what did you learn about that process of going from screenwriting to prose?
Yeah, I think I was coming to prose with this idea, this rule. I had so many rules that I had read that someone else said, which
Yeah.
so throw all those out is probably the first thing to do. But the idea that you should always show, don't tell, show, don't
Right.
tell, show, don't tell,
Hmm.
show, don't tell. But in a novel, you have hundreds of pages and you have someone who's wanting to invest in you and go on this journey with you. And if you only show, it feels almost, at least when I was trying, it was like I'm tripping over myself. Like it's about pacing, right? Because sometimes we need, just like in a film, like we need those quiet moments and quiet scenes to sort of regroup and figure out what's going on with people. Maybe a little backstory, maybe there's a flashback. So it's not always just go, 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 show, show, show. I
Hmm.
think that can leave us feeling unsatisfied.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. 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 So I want to ask you, like, it's so interesting that you were talking about your brother and you wrote a memoir with your brother and then you were talking about dialogue because some of my favorite parts of this book was her and her brother just talking. I loved their dynamic.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, her brother Simon, and Sloan and Simon are twins. And Simon, I'm gonna have to do some kind of sequel starring Simon because he seems to be a popular guy. And that it was a great way to sort of just to show character and through that
Hmm.
relationship in the beginning of the story. And part of well, really, he was born after I had a friend who was read one of my earliest drafts. And she was complaining and saying, like, well, Sloan is such a milk toast. I can't get on board with her. And I was like, but she's not a hero yet. She needs time. She needs to like work her way up. And she said, well, but that's why you need the best friend character. So
Mm.
we as a reader can understand why this character is likable and connect with them. And so yeah, her brother became sort of her best friend character. And through that we see their sense of humor, we see what they were like, sort of what they were like as kids and how they were there for each other. They have this really distant father, this big famous professor who's never around. So they had to sort of, parent each other growing up. And yeah, well, I think one of the hardest things for Sloane when she's going back in time, because once heroes go back, they're not supposed to be able to come back ever. So it's sort of like you're giving up your life, really.
Mhm.
And she has to say goodbye to Simon, which I think was really tough for her.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about the premise and how you like came up with the idea because you mentioned Outlander, you mentioned being in like a miserable hole. Talk about the premise and then talk about your inspiration for Sloane as a character.
Yeah. Okay. So that like thinking back, I must have been, it's a little fuzzy. I don't have a great memory. Sloane has a superpower memory. So that's why I gave her that because
I
mine was,
love that because I was gonna be like, do
yeah.
you have like a picture perfect memory and also how? Like,
No, 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 the opposite, which is
Mhm.
why, yeah, which is why I gave her that. But I think I was thinking about do-overs and just being able to undo or start again, or, the idea of going back in time and being able to set things right and have a do-over. When I first started to conceiving of Sloane, she had an anger problem, which also probably points to where I was in my life at the time. Um, and I think, the characters came to me visually at first, which was really strange, like seeing them in my mind's eye. And I remember seeing a woman in my mind's eye who was not Sloane, but who ended up being, I realized later, was her mother
Mm.
Tida.
Mm-hmm.
And that image of her in my mind was so sharp, unlike my memories, so sharp. I could just see all the details of her face, and I could feel sort of who she was and her essence, and like what she'd been through and where she came from. And it's funny because motherhood ends up being a theme throughout the book. So Sloane has lost her mother in childbirth before she was even born, or as she was being born, and then Sloane contemplates becoming a mother herself. And then there's themes of Mother Earth and nature
Mm-hmm.
that come into play in the story too. Yeah, so that my first sort of conception of her as a character was her mother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. Okay, so let's talk about Bastion. We brought him up. We got to talk about the book boyfriend,
Please, let's.
the sexy book boyfriend, because he really was. The thing is that like, sometimes I in real life I'm mistrusting of billionaires, but you can trust Bastion. That was my first. It's like he's trustworthy.
Yes, I wanted like all of the like those just really stereotypical qualities of like what women want, like a man
Yeah.
with money, a man in power, a man in control, but then balancing it with just like someone who was so down to earth and just like a good guy, like squeaky clean. Like that does it for me. Like I want, like, I'm a one woman kind of guy. Like, okay,
Hmm.
think Edward and Bella. What appeals to me so much is that he's been a vampire for 100 years and no one has interested him until her. And that's
Yes.
just that feeling of being chosen and being special. And that's what Sloane is for him. I had a lot of drafts where he talks about like he's just been celibate ever since he saw her. They see each other in another timeline. And so Sloane doesn't realize that they've met before. Bastion has to sort of reveal this to her. That was probably a big spoiler, so I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. You could spoil as much as you want. Yeah.
Okay, okay. But yeah, but he's basically this is a guy who's kind of he's in charge of the whole world. He's in charge of this program. He's developed time travel. He's basically a genius. I mean, he's really I think he's described at one point in the book as like the most intelligent person who's ever lived, or he's credited with sort of keeping humanity alive until we can figure out a way to like reverse this climate disaster that we've created.
Hmm.
But in his personal moments with Eleanor, who's his best friend, or with Sloane, who becomes his lover, he can be, he's shy and bashful
Hmm.
and just like I think nerdy almost. Like, how did
Yeah.
you? I'm interested to hear how you read him.
It was to the point where I was like, honestly, I was like, he's really dorky and like he's like socially awkward and also like extremely sexy. What a dream. There was a part of me that was like, if he like all of a sudden turns around and is like, this was all a ruse, like I
Oh
got you,
God.
I was gonna like lose my mind in humanity. Like I was gonna just like lose. I was just gonna like heartbroken.
Oh my God, no, he has to be good. That's my and I listening to your podcast, I love hearing about the different romance novels that you read. And in some of the more bodice ripper romance that I've read, I cannot get on board when like the dude is a rogue or a
Yeah.
rake. Like it does nothing for me. Like if he's sleeping with everyone in town, it just like I can't. No, it's like I have to be special, or like the main character has to be special. And if he's getting with anyone, like I can't. It doesn't do it for
Yeah,
me.
I get it. It's such an important, like, that's such an important feeling for, when you read a romance novel, of just like, it's such a, your fantasy of being seen, being the only one. I want to ask you about how, like, romance and reading romance, this is a romance podcast.
Yeah.
How has it informed, like, your writing process of this book? And tell me about your, do you read romance regularly?
Yes. So I love I love romance in any form. I love the
Hmm.
romantic comedy as a film, especially. I feel like the rom-com, when done well,
Yeah.
can be just one of the most delightful and satisfying just experiences of storytelling. And there's a lot that's not done well, unfortunately. People are trying, but when you hit it, for me at least, when you hit it right, like, oh, it's so satisfying.
Same.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I read when I first started with the book and I had some early editors and beta readers, they were telling me it was romance. And I said, I don't think it is because it's not following. It has a lot of the tropes, I guess. Like you have a lot of the conventions, and there's definitely a love story is totally core to the story, but it's not like you're getting kissing within the first 5 pages or, all of those like milestones. So I read a lot, like I read Tessa Dare when I was looking
Hmm.
for more of, yeah. And then I also read Emily Henry and I read Casey McQuiston. I hope I
Hmm.
said it right. And and I really like, especially Casey and Emily, like I love the writing and it's really smart and funny. But then I had all of this like sci-fi stuff going on, and then it got mystical, and then there's like then now we're in France in the 1500s. So I was like, I'm not sure what this is, which is why I really struggled writing the love scenes because there's, depending on the type of genre and the world that you're writing, there are sort of like rules. And not that you can't break rules, but I think readers expect a certain heat level or a certain way of like coming to the love scenes and describing. And you have in sometimes in literary fiction, authors don't write about sex at all. Like we get up until the moment and then so we cut to the next
Right.
morning,
Hmm.
kind of a thing. And so I really I tried everything. I tried where I'm just describing every body part and like the friction and the viscosity, and there are throbbing members and
Hmm.
everywhere. And then I also tried nothing. I tried the build up and then the nothing, and always trying to get feedback from writer friends and folks in my writing group. And the nothing people were furious because I
Right.
built up half the book, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They're
Half
so,
the
I mean, they're
book.
horny. They are very horny for each other.
Yes. Well, and it's like, yeah, exactly. Like you left me hanging. You're like, hello. But then it also didn't feel quite right to have throbbing members.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, even though I think there are throbbing members, but I think to have it on the page, there's something really sweet and tender to the relationship between Sloane and Bastion. And I think it's absolutely very passionate, very sexy, but they're very much in love too. So I think I wanted to find sort of a sweetness. And so I think I still wanted, well, let me ask you, I wanted the reader to know what was happening, even if I didn't say it explicitly.
It's so interesting you mentioned this because, there are different, like for me, I've read all different level. Like I've read Amish romance and obviously it's not going to be steamy, so like that. But like this, it felt very steamy and it's like for me, it their love scene happened because they were in love versus I think in other romances lust very much comes into play. And it's not that I didn't feel lust, like I said, like they're so horny for each other because they're human beings, but once like it seems like their love scene for me was more essential than just like, oh, we're seeing them release these tensions. It was like kind of like this thing of like, oh, she's about to leave in like 5 days or whatever, and like they're finally professing their love for each other. It like helped kind of like move the plot forward. Not that love scenes don't in romance novels, but this just felt so like, oh, if they were like, I don't know, like it was like finally like their bruises were both down, you know what I mean? They were both connecting, and I think like they needed to sleep with each other. They needed to, I mean, obviously for the story, but like also
Yes, I'm so glad you felt that way. It's hard too because they don't have a lot of contact with each other. It's
Mhm.
because of his position, and she's training to be a hero and he's very incognito. So they don't have a lot of, she doesn't even know who he is. I mean, it's a looks across the room.
Yeah. Mhm.
But they both have, he's been waiting for her for 10 years, unbeknownst to her. And she's been dreaming of him for 10 years, unbeknownst to him. And so individually, they have these like long histories with each other and all of this pent up love and everything. but their actual contact in the story up until that point is very minimal. So that was hard to get right. And I worried that it would feel too fast. And it sounds like you're saying it didn't. So that's really good.
No, it didn't. Because, like, also, I think with romance readers, again, and I can only speak as a romance reader, there is the concept of fated mates, and the second you see that, like, she's been dreaming of him, and then the fact that, like, he originally saw her 10 years ago, I was just like, oh, yeah, they're meant to be together. I don't need any more explanation. Like, it's just my heart just does that. My brain just does that. You know what I mean? Especially when it's like, I mean, I know that, like, he's in charge. He invented time travel, and they do have, like, fate. They are in charge of their own fate in some circumstances. Really, they're not. There is, like, this outside force kind of setting up their, kind of affecting their ability to have free will in a way. And so they're going to find each other. They're soulmates,
Yes. Yes. And that is, I'm so glad you mentioned that too, because there's definitely mystical forces at play. And, there's it's sort of almost like the spirit of Mother Earth that's helping Sloane on her mission once she goes back, and that helps Sloane come back to the future to reunite with Bastion. And it's interesting because some readers that have read the book before it came out sort of interpret that as like religious, and it's absolutely what you just said. It's sort of like this mystical fated thing that is, it's healing the planet, it's bringing lovers together, it's resetting, it's giving humanity a chance, but my intention was never for it to be religious.
Right. And I think is I can understand, like, people going that way, because you do, like, there is the language of religion, because you have because she's going to the past where it's like the only thing people understand is religion,
Exactly. Yes. She's in a very religious time and place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that maybe there are still some people today who, like.
Maybe offended, or maybe,
No. It's so funny because one of the reasons I was so intrigued to have you on the show is that I'm on the email list for your PR company, and the way the email was, like, sent to me, it was like, you wanted to talk about, like, writing a sex scene, not having these characters be like puppets playing out your personal fantasies, and also, like, shame. Well, this was in the email. Shame, from your milquetoast Midwestern upbringing. And the thing is, what's so funny about that is that is a question I always wanted to ask romance authors, but have been hesitant to ask because I feel like I don't want to, like, make people feel vulnerable. So I do want to talk about, like, how you overcame, like, your sex scene writing fears, because I feel like, again, like I said, like, it's just hard for me. It feels like I'm asking an author to be too vulnerable when I ask them those questions. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to talk about it. It was definitely, I mean, so you're writing fiction, right? Which feels like at first blush, like it's fiction. No one's ever going to connect this with me personally, but of course they do. And there's so much of, at least for me, there's so much of me on every page. It's not literal, but there's pieces of my heart and soul and my sense of humor and my fears and everything. It's all there. And so, yeah, especially when you're writing, when you start writing about sex, it's the fear of people are going to think this is what I like, or people are going to think that this is what I want but don't have, or people are going to judge my kinks or my lack of kinks. Or, yeah, there's just a ton about what are people going to think, and then a lot about what are readers going to expect, and am I fulfilling their expectation? And that really tied back to, like, what is the genre of this thing, and putting this pressure on myself to, like, do it a certain way because that's what publishers want, or that's what readers want. And ultimately, as when we were talking in the beginning, that this book it's a weird book. I think it's very weird. It doesn't fit into any category. And so the sex scene probably doesn't either. And what it ended up having to be was I wanted for them to have this perfect dream, this just like maybe what we all want, and it looks different for every one of us, but it's just like this ultimate sexual fantasy, whatever that means to you. And so for me, I'm probably very demisexual, and so for me that is just totally tied to emotion, but it's also tied to lust and just physicality, but it's all meshed up. I'm like putting my fingers together to show how meshed up it is. And so I had to let that be enough and like let what I think is sexy be valid. And that was really hard because I thought people are going to think this is so saccharine. They're going to think it's really vanilla. I mean, because it's very heteronormative. There's no one's getting out any props. It's, two naked bodies on a bed alone, two people in love with each other making love. And so, yeah, my biggest struggle was just to let what I find sexy be enough for these characters on the page, and then just hope maybe there's some readers out there who will like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting because you're going to have readers who are like, this was the most explicit thing I ever read. Do you know what I mean? Like, because it's just like, there is like, so many people have so many, like the reading world is so vast, and it's like, it seems like you can't please everyone, but it seems like there are people you're going to please because you're just rooting for their characters more so than like, oh, I want to see a specific sex scene that involves this, and this,
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's something else I realized too. And you mentioned this before too. It's like the sex scene as a way to move the plot forward or a way to deepen character development. Like, how does it function within the story? And in books that are more that straight romance genre, it's we're usually, at least in what I've read, we're usually building towards some sort of emotional resolution at the end, or like we get there through the sex. And the guy mysteriously doesn't lose interest in the girl after having sex and becomes just even more in love with her, because that's what we all wish would happen.
Of course.
Yeah, but gosh, I definitely had to tinker with. I had to get really clear on what was happening. And then the hard part was, what do I articulate and what do I leave to the imagination?
Right. Yeah. It almost feels like, it's just like hearing you talk, it almost feels like, kind of embracing your own sexuality as a human being, just like kind of acknowledging what you're into, what you're not into. And it's so easy to find different ways to feel shame about sexuality, whether you're writing or doing it. You know what I mean? And so there's something like in what you're talking about that I very much relate to.
Yeah, that's such a good point. It's even if it's fiction, so you're sort of removed and it's a story, it's not your life, but yeah, we're still bringing. And mine almost feels like a reverse shame in a way, because it wasn't this idea of like shame around just having sexuality or being turned on by this, but like I almost felt like it wasn't going to be spicy enough. It's not going to be. It's, you think of like 50 Shades of Grey or just like there's wonderful queer romance, and there's just. I was worried that it was going to be too heteronormative and just too safe. And I thought maybe it'd be boring.
I mean, I feel that way like in life. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, was I boring? And I'm like, yeah.
Oh, it's like you're describing my first dates.
Exactly. Yeah. But it seems like, it's just something like, you got past it in a fabulous way where it's like there was nothing it seems like you were not proud, but like you were human, you're like, this is me vulnerable. I'm owning this. It's owning it. I think that's what it is.
Which is exactly Sloane's journey as a character too. And I think like her journey is really one of like self-love, self-acceptance, learning to embrace what she had always thought of as her superpower memory was this shameful flaw. And by the end, it really becomes her superpower. And for me, writing her story, it was the same sort of journey, like growing in confidence as a writer and feeling like I deserve to take up space and that I have a right to tell a story. And in the beginning, I went to conferences, and really I would begin conversations with like, I'm so sorry, I'm here. I shouldn't be here. Like I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I probably even did it with you on this conversation, but I think that growth for me has been like you don't get your like novelist card. Anyone may write a novel. It is not something that you need an MFA in order to do. Like we are all creative people, and that's sort of what I've realized too, is like, yeah, it's okay that I did this.
Yeah. Oh, it's okay. Yeah, you have the world's permission. But it's so funny because like I think one thing that I related the most to about Sloan was her imposter syndrome, and I really, really felt it because like I constantly apologize, and you feel like anything good in your life you have to earn it. You have to have the privilege of doing I don't know, doing certain things in a certain way, and it's like society makes you feel that way.
Especially women, right? It's
Yeah.
like you're only allowed to have success if you have suffered
Right. Hmm.
first, right?
Yeah.
It's like if you have suffered and you've got you struggled and it's been hard for you and then you have success, that's fine. But we don't, yeah, especially like we don't like as a society, there's some sort of taboo around a woman who's like what Glennon Doyle calls a cheetah, like a woman
Mhm.
who's doesn't hate herself. I think that's how she describes it.
Yeah, yeah. And it almost like as a person, like it feels like, oh, when you have moments when you don't hate yourself, it's like, well, then you feel guilty, and then you're hating
Right.
yourself again.
What a cycle. And of course we do. Everywhere we look, every ad in my Instagram feed is like what women over 40 don't know about gray hair. And it's
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
can I please turn this off? Like let my hair just be alone. Like everything about me is they want to like monetize by telling me it's not good enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so I want to jump to the kind of the thematic elements of this book. We were talking about it earlier and talking about how like it's our role in terms of climate change, like as humanity, to be like Earth's protector. We have to protect Earth. That's kind of the lesson that is, I don't want to spoil anything, but that's the lesson that kind of is, brought forth in this book. And I wanted to ask you, like, is that part of your own like personal philosophy?
Yeah, it's a great question. And that is definitely one of the themes, the idea of environmental stewardship. And in the book, it's really about reclaiming that visceral connection with nature.
Hmm.
So in the future, in this book, there is no connection because there's no trees, there's no animals, they all died. And so we can't like that's something that really got lost. And so the idea is that if we could get back to that, being surrounded by nature, being out in it, feeling part of it instead of separate from
Hmm.
it, and reclaiming all of the incredible human societies that have lived in harmony with nature, as a give and a take and a give. Like I think our Western society is so here in Los Angeles. I mean, there's so many beautiful parts of Los Angeles, and there's so much is just cement.
Hmm.
It's just like all the cement. And in the book, it's like when we live in cities like that, we can't feel our connection. And so the premise and what happens in the story is that when people are immersed in nature, we reclaim something ancient that we had forgotten about. And it's not this like not just about passing laws. Of course, we need laws and we need policy and we need corporations to operate differently, but also on that individual connected level, what happens when we can reclaim that something sacred that we lost, and what might we do then if we feel it, if we feel that connection, and if we can actually see the stars at night, if we
Hmm.
can actually like breathe the air we're meant to be breathing, maybe how might that change us as people on the inside?
Yeah, because it's so interesting. It's like sometimes, like when you read science fiction and you go to sometimes you like go to a foreign planet and you see these alien races, and they're kind of just like they are very much aware of their planet, of what There's like an awareness and a connection. Like there's like a sense of pride or not pride or just like once having pride, and then it's almost like in real life on planet Earth, this is probably the dumbest thing I've ever said. In real life on planet Earth, like you almost forget that, oh, we live on a planet in
Totally.
space. You know what I mean?
Absolutely we do, because we have our own little worlds in our cities and in our work and in our personal lives, and we're not out in it, especially I think in North America. In other countries with different climates, you're just like out in the day more,
Hmm.
or out on the water more. But it's easy to forget. It's easy to feel totally, completely disconnected. And the gift that I wanted to give them in the story, which is it's a fantasy, but what if we could start over? What if we could totally have a do-over, knowing what we know now, and like reset to like 500 years ago? And what would we do differently? Would we do anything differently? Could we? And if everyone is just gets dropped into the natural world, like really think there's wisdom in, not to get all woo, but you're in LA, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh no, that's just
yeah,
normal. Yeah.
like wisdom in the trees, and you
Yeah.
see animals, like my cat, when there's a thunderstorm coming, she senses it. So like we're animals, right? So there's a natural connection to the planet and weather patterns and whatever spirit of the planet. So I think like I don't think it's ever going to work to mandate people to like do the right thing.
Hmm.
I think whether it's having to do with the planet or anything else, it's like I think we have to change. Each of us has to change individually.
Right.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. You were mentioning the idea of like having like what if we had a reset, and you chose the era of history for this reset is 16th century France. Why that era?
So Sloane's mission when she sent back in time is, so she's going back to the early 1500s, before France has colonized North America.
Hmm.
And so her mission, now these heroes go back one at a time. So they're all going to do very specific missions. That's sort of the limits of the technology in the story. So it's not like you can send one hero back and just like save the world. It's more like I'm going to a very particular place in time to do one specific thing. And so she's posing as a concubine from the Ottoman Empire, and she's using her superpower memory to pretend that she's a sorceress, like an astrologer. Because she has this memory, she's going to memorize everything that's happening in history, go make friends with King Francis, and he's going to think she's psychic because she
Hmm.
knows she can predict everything that's going on. And so her whole plan is to like gain the king's trust, become one of his most valued advisors. And then when explorers come and they're like, "Hey, let's go colonize the Americas," the king's not going to make a move unless Sloane tells him yay or nay. And of course, she's going to say nay. And the
Hmm.
idea is that the indigenous people who live in what is today Nova Scotia and Labrador and all, like
Hmm.
in far eastern North America, are going to be able to retain their way of life over the centuries, trickles forward. And so we see the effects, like the positive effects on the climate over the centuries.
Hmm. So, like, did you have like a particular fascination, like with Paris and France, not Paris, France, at like of that era, like kind of it's like pre Mary Queen of Scots. And yeah, like because there is an interesting just like where the world is at at that time,
Yeah, yeah, it definitely was just a love like of France and French culture. When I was starting off, I I was just putting in every ingredient to comfort myself. So I like
Mm-hmm.
France. I like Vancouver. So the story starts in Vancouver. I like
Right.
Persian food. So we are going to have a lot of that in the story. So it was just throwing all of these things to just as like therapy for
Mm-hmm.
myself. But
Mm-hmm.
then once I knew I was writing a novel, I had invested so much time that I was like, oh God, I have to make this all work together. And so I think too, just the idea, like how is it going to relate to climate? Um, and also like I didn't want her to be in like industrial revolution, because I wanted her to be far enough back where we didn't have any of that stuff yet. We're not
Right.
having like factories churning out smoke and steam engines and all that stuff. So she's going back to a place where um there's no lights at night, there's no
Mm-hmm.
electricity, anything like that.
Yeah. It was really fascinating. And I want to talk about what was like your thought process and kind of the pressures of you have to go from making up Earth in the future to knowing about or like somewhat having some sort of reference to Earth in the past.
Yeah. The future was a little bit easier because it's closer to our time.
Right.
For the
Yeah.
future. Yeah. I wanted to be careful about the terminology I used around their technology, because I think if I talk about smartphones or, it can, the book can become dated really fast because
Mm-hmm.
our technology changes so swiftly. So I would use sort of more neutral terms, like they use handhelds or they have wristbands, to sort of, so we never really know what year it is. And then for the past, I am the world's laziest researcher. Some writers love that part, like
Mm-hmm.
that's their favorite. And that is not me. I'm like, I just want to make things up and use my imagination.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I also didn't want to be, I wanted it to be plausible. I wanted it to feel like like the reader is in 16th century France. So I read books and I had worked with a fact checker. It's very amazing how much, this is going to be the stupidest thing I ever said, how much misinformation there is on the internet.
Interesting.
Yeah, can you believe it?
Mm-hmm.
But just like things that come up first in Google and like looks like a reputable website, if you go to a library, you will find out it is false. So that was helpful. But then you have to balance like the reader's expectations with what's actually true.
Right.
So, yeah, because sometimes if, 98% of American readers like think, I'm just going to make up something silly. I don't know, like they didn't have red dye for their clothing in 1521, but they
Right.
did. And
Right.
then if you say they did, the reader reads it like it's a mistake, even if it's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like this balancing act, but I wanted it to be plausible. I didn't want anyone to feel like they were taken out of the story, but it's definitely not perfectly historically accurate. There's playing around with time. So it's like, okay, this really happened, but it happened earlier or later in real life than it
Right.
does in the story.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's like one of those things of like you can't please everyone, especially when people just don't have when the incorrect facts are in their head. Do you know what I mean?
Right. When I was recording the audiobook, so the characters of Zachary and Alona, so in the book the book is written in English, but the characters are speaking in Provençal, which is a
Mhm.
dialect of Occitan, which is what they would have spoken at the time in the south of France in the 1500s. But when I was recording the audiobook, I did the dialect in French, a
Mhm.
French dialect, and I talked to a coach, and we went back and forth. And well, it would have been really really hard for me to nail a Provençal dialect because it was very hard to get recording. I can't even like find a recording of it, let alone
Right.
yeah. But also, stories in France, listener is expecting a French accent, right?
Right.
Keep it simple. So
Mhm.
that's also like not accurate, but hopefully works as a piece of entertainment.
Of course, yeah. So you recorded your own audiobook. Tell me about that. I mean, I know you have experience in theater and acting, so that must have been so much fun for you.
Oh my God, so much fun, but also so difficult. And I thought I had the proper amount of respect, which was a lot for audiobook narrators, but I did not, because it is like, and it should be an Olympic sport. It was
Mm-hmm.
so grueling. Like I thought I was getting my voice in shape, and I was like doing exercises, and like I would read for an hour or two most days as I was going into the recording. So I wasn't going cold turkey, but the fourth, fifth hour in, oh my God, I couldn't speak at night. I was doing voice to text to parent my kids. I was like, go to bed. I mean it. I could, it was so grueling.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it was really fun to get. I think there's over 30 voiced characters, and it's over half the book is dialogue. So
Hmm.
lots of like me talking to myself, and it was fun to try to like become Bastion, who I think is like the sexiest man alive.
Hmm.
But then how can I make my voice sound like a sexy man? that was a tough challenge.
But sometimes it works because, like, I'll think of like audiobook narrators who, like, I'll remember their sexy man voice more than like their regular speaking voice, you know, because I'm just like, they do something so interesting with it. Like I mean, I don't know, I didn't hear the audiobook yet, but just like how they kind of like the smallest adjustment is suddenly like, that's really damn sexy.
Yes. Oh my gosh. When people are it's just incredible. And what I learned too was that you don't have to be just like objectively low, like down here. You can talk up here a little bit. So I'm a little bit higher than my normal. And then I talk down here, which is just low for me.
Right.
And then when we're listening to that, it can sound like male, female
Yeah.
dialogue.
Yeah, that absolutely. Because I think just an outsider coming in, you just think, I'm a man now, boop, boop, boop,
Right.
you know, and it's like, that's not, literally no one talks like that.
No.
What was it like kind of going through what you wrote as an audiobook narrator? Like, did you take pride in like this world you created? It must have been like such a fun, kind of emotional, kind of full circle journey for you.
It was really fun. I kind of wish I had read everything out loud sooner, because when we were in the studio, I was still finding typos and like continuity errors. And in the version you read, you probably read the one with still more errors. And like, there's this countdown timer when Sloane's countdown to when she's going to go through the portal to go back in time. And so I found a ton of mistakes with, every chapter heading is like, okay, she has 7 days till she leaves. She has 6 days. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, I only gave her like 10 minutes, but it should have been 8 hours, and finding
Didn't
errors
notice.
like that. Yeah.
Didn't
You
notice.
didn't? Okay.
Yeah, no, this
Okay.
is too
Phew.
stupid to live. You're fine. Yeah.
That's probably good you didn't notice.
No, not at all. Yeah.
I would like, if I have it to do over next time, I would like to read the book out loud, just record it myself and then listen, because we find different things and like find different mistakes or like holes or like things that could be cut, that sort of thing when you're listening.
Right. I mean, I guess imagine just being a creative person and being who we are. It's like hard not to kind of turn the voice off of like critique, you know?
Yes, that's it. I think that's when I know that when I'm succeeding, are the parts of the book where I forget that I wrote it and I'm just reading and I'm
Yeah.
in the story.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing when I was listening.
Yeah.
And it's not the whole thing by any means, but there are parts, and like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, it's my first novel, but there's definitely parts that I definitely feel happy with, and that I don't think I change anything. And then there
Yeah.
are other parts.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're human beings, and it's just like, we are who we are. And I like, when you were talking about like, next time, blah, 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 blah. Again, not trying to spoil anything, but it does seem like you do open up kind of, the ending is open-ended, in a way where another story could happen in the future, in future Vancouver or just future Earth. Is that crossing your mind?
Yes, definitely. I could absolutely see a sequel, and there's an epilogue that sort of, so just to clarify, there's absolutely a happy ending.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And hopefully it feels like a closure. But yes, then there's an epilogue with Sloane has created this different world, but there might be threats to the timeline, and leaving the door open, because I would love to spend more time with these characters. Especially if there are readers who would like to too. I think I might need some feedback, a little bit of motivation, and if I get that, I would love to do another book. The next book I'm working on is a prequel to the 23rd Hero, but it's not sci-fi; it's straight rom-com. But it's Bastion's grandparents in present day, how they met and fell in love.
Oh, I cannot wait. I'm going to just say, can I be on your ARC team for that? Just I'm putting it out there. That is so awesome. Because again, like I said, there could be sequels, but there also could very much be prequels, It's just so fascinating, just it kind of like opened up my mind a little bit of like, okay, like someone saves the world, but then that can cause other political strife because there's still kind of like these outliers, not outliers, maybe majority of people who only care about themselves and their money and like, things like that. And so it's like, oh yeah, nothing is perfect,
Yeah. Even when it's like we get the reset and it seems perfect. Yeah, that's kind of seems like human nature.
Mm-hmm.
I worried too, because at the end of the book, okay, our whole conversation is filled with spoilers, so I hope
Yeah.
we're just gonna go there.
I will say that in the beginning intro. I'll be like, guys,
Right.
there's a lot of
Tons
spoilers.
of spoilers. Please
Yeah.
listen.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, even if we have, I guess I didn't, it sort of feels utopian at the end. And so I wanted to bring in some layers of like, okay, who's going to hate utopia? Who's going to be
Right. Yeah.
anti-utopia? Because
Mhm.
yeah, that's the world we live in. And I think it's probably the world they live into, and they want to undo the wonderful things that Sloan did.
Exactly. I mean, I guess maybe why that I'm thinking that is that we are in an election season, and it's just like, there's always people saying something to incite something else that just like I think to rational people makes no sense, but they exist. These are the people we share this planet with.
Yes, it's just thriving on conflict, and I have to be anti. It doesn't even matter what anti. I just have to be anti something to feel.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I want to ask you like, wait, what do I want to ask you? You had this like great line in this, and I wrote it down, and it was in the future. The planet and its people were perishing because no one remembered their purpose. And in the past, people were perishing because they misunderstood their purpose. And I was like, oh, such a great line. And I think it kind of like definitely like highlights what we were talking about,
Yeah, with the whole idea of the purpose of being a steward of the earth.
Yeah.
And I think forgotten in the future for sure, as most of us probably have, and which is easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like no shame, because it's I mean, I'm sitting in front of computer monitors inside. I can, not go outside all day sometimes. And in the past, it's that religious component where this is 15th or 16th century Catholic France. This is a time when there's like people are getting burned at the stake for heresy, and the wars of religion between Protestants and Catholics are imminent, and like especially women were especially vulnerable to if a man accused a woman of being a heretic, that was enough. That was proof. A man's opinion was proof. And so it's a very dangerous time, and the Catholic Church at that time just governing through fear of these mental concepts, right? So it's like this concept, the church's concept of heaven and the church's concept of hell, and this is in the story what leads people to kill or to have themselves killed. This idea of if I say I'm a sinner, then I will be redeemed, and all of these constructs. And that's something that when she's back in France and trying to accomplish her mission, Sloane is trying to figure out a way to cut through. And so she sees this society that is steeped in these beliefs and they're used to believing in something. And she thinks, well, what if they believed in something else? What if it was something that would help us in the future? What if it was believing in their role to take care of and sustain this perfect planet that they have?
Yeah. Because like sometimes when you think about the current day issues in society, it kind of all like boils down to what people believe in and the difficulty of like asking someone to like legit change their beliefs,
Totally. Everything, like every instance of violence, what is that person? What talk track is playing in their mind? What do they believe in? I think if we all I don't know how to say it exactly, but it's what you said. It's like changing the belief is really the only way to make change.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I was just thinking like, again, like, during the Affordable Care Act, when that was kind of being talked about, I mean, it still is, but, it was kind of like, oh, this is about people caring about other people. It's not about like taxes. It's not about expenses. This is about like literally the ability to like care for your neighbor or just like have empathy for other people. And it's like, if we can't get past that, yeah.
Right. What hope is there?
Exactly. Anyway, vote 20. No. I have another question for you. That the main AI in this world, the technology of it, is called Saffron, and I wanted to know where you got that name from.
Yes, and it's so embarrassing to answer that question only because that is another thing ingredient from just my personal collection of things that I like. I love that name.
It's
I think that was
beautiful.
the name. So this is a little bit of Bastion's backstory, but Bastion was married previously, and his wife died. And his wife, when she died, they had gotten pregnant, and that's what they were going to name the baby. So when he invented this technology, he named the technology after his daughter.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And that's another great ingredient in romance is like when we have the male hero who's like I'm a one woman kind of guy, like an Edward in Twilight, and Bastion is the same. It really helps if he has a dead wife.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I just had this thought of like, okay, this is a second chance romance, but it's also a second chance romance for planet Earth, you know?
Oh, baby. I love it. Yes, it is. It totally is. But yeah, the previous, you got to have the dead wife because it didn't end because he was a jerk and she divorced him.
Right.
And he's obviously a guy that can commit, you know, and then we have pity for him. I mean, that's a great ingredient if you want to make a male character like sympathetic, is give him a
dead wife, dead mom, anyone, you know, like it's kind of like, like
lots of dead people. Yeah, good.
just bring up the numbers, guys. Bring up the numbers. Okay, so I want to ask you, what is next for you? I know we talked about possibly you have your prequel, or you're having the prequel, possibly having a sequel. Is there anything else that you're kind of thinking about exploring now that you're a fiction writer?
Oh my gosh. I'm looking forward to getting back into just in writing and seeing what happens after. There's a lot of just promotion going into the book coming out, and so there's some promotion fatigue. I have a play that will be produced in Texas in November, so I'm looking forward to that. That's also a romantic comedy. So a rom-com, my rom-com fix. And oh my gosh, what else? I think I'm also looking forward to anyone who's in Milwaukee, Chicago area, Madison area in the next few weeks to come out and see me at a real bookstore with real print books and a real author in person. I would love to meet you.
Awesome. And where can we find like dates and stuff for those events?
Yeah, I think on my website, if you go to Rebecca N as in Nancy, Writes, WRITES at .com, and that has all the schedule and all the places and times, and there will be like snacks and champagne. So if nothing else, just come for the free snacks.
Yeah, that sounds great. Oh my God. Other authors take note, have champagne and snack. No, they sometimes do, but I am so excited for you. And I just like absolutely like this book again, unlike anything I've ever read. And I'm just like so excited for everyone to read it because it really is like one of the most original stories I've ever read.
Thank you so much, Becky. That's fantastic. And that just makes my heart sing and fortifies me for going into tomorrow when I feel like I'm going to be thrown to the wolves, but there's also lambs. So thank you for being a lamb. A literary lamb.
I'm a literary lamb. Honestly, and I think there are many lambs out there. I know that there are, you know, and just the wolves are just sometimes a little louder and just tell them to shut up.
That's very profound. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a really smart person as I've proven. Well, Rebecca, thank you so much for being a guest. It was so great to talk to you.
It was fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Once again, links to The 23rd Hero are available in the show notes and on the episode page at tstlpodcast.com. If you like the show, consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and following TSTL Podcast on various social medias at TSTL Podcast. And if you didn't like the show, why are you still here? Too Stupid to Live is part of the Culture Media Network. Thank you so much for listening and have a great rest of your day.